at the time and still now, what my agent told me was that the anorexic look was in. He literally said those words and he said, "You have an athletic build. And so I won't be able to send you for lead roles." I already knew that I wasn't the standard. And he reinforced that to me.
Almost a validation of, oh, everything that I believe is true.
In the summer of 2021, she died of her eating disorder. And it's documented by the coroner and everything. It was the eating disorder. It wasn't a suicide. It was just organ failure. I'm entering my fuck skinny era. And I think it's a way of repressing women because if we're busy worried about our weight, we're not out there advocating and being out there changing the world.
Hello, and welcome back to Get Obsessed with Your Cycle. I'm your host, Nat Kekal. Today's conversation is one I've been holding with a lot of reverence. It's personal, it's honest, and I think it's going to land very deeply for so many of you. In this episode, I sit down with Melanie Richards, yoga teacher, founder of Happy Tree, and the woman behind the Fuck Skinny movement to talk about body image, disordered eating, grief, nervous system healing, and what it actually means to come home to your body after years of trying to make it smaller. So I invite you to take a deep breath, let your shoulders soften, and dive into this conversation. Hello, and welcome back to Get Obsessed with Your Cycle. Today, I am so excited about this conversation, a personal journey through one woman's life, talking all about eating disorders, body image issues, and I think so relevant to so many women's lives. And I cannot wait to start. I'm already shivering with excitement to speak to her today. So please welcome Natalie Richards, founder of Happy Tree and starter of the Fuck Skinny movement.
Thank you so much for having me, Natalie. It's such an honor to be here and to share my story.
Thank you. Let's dive right in. What I usually like to do for my listeners is talk about your background. Where do you come from? What led you into this life? Give us the lowdown.
Great. Yeah, I'm like, oh, where do I start? And I did give it a little bit of thought. I think I won't go totally into my childhood, but I will say that I grew up in Ottawa as a first generation Canadian. My parents are European. And I was fortunate that they encouraged my artistic side. So I've always been super artistic, drawing, painting, and also in terms of the way that I express myself, very theatrical. I did a lot of theater and acting and speech competitions, public speaking. And then for university, I went to Concordia in Montreal and did communication studies, and I specialized in television production. The funny thing is, although I was doing TV, I was also at the same time auditioning for people's television projects. And my TV professor was like, "What are you doing behind the camera? You should be in front of the camera." And he would say that to me every time he saw me. And that kind of stuck. And he had some connections in the industry. So when I graduated from Concordia, I thought, I really want to give this childhood dream of acting a shot. So after some search and knocking on a lot of doors and getting doors slammed in my face, I found an agent who took me on, despite the fact that I wasn't leading lady material. So what I mean by that is at the time and still now, what my agent told me was that the anorexic look was in. He literally said those words and he said, "You have an athletic build. And so I won't be able to send you for lead roles. I'll have to send you for the best friend or whatever, but you're not thin enough," basically. And he said it in a very compassionate way. He wasn't being mean. He was being matter of fact about what the industry standard was. So I really took that to heart. And that's how I started yoga, actually. So I started yoga because I wanted to lose weight. And at the time, I was really into reading fashion magazines and that kind of thing. And it was at the time where, and I'll reveal my age at this point, that this was probably around 2003, 2004. And yoga wasn't really a household thing. Not everybody knew what yoga was at that time, if you can believe it. But Gwyneth Paltrow and Madonna were putting it on the map. And they were putting it on the map with Ashtanga and Bikram and like these very athletic kinds of yoga that helped you to develop lean muscle mass and that were cardiovascular. So on top of the gym, I started going to Bikram yoga because, again, I wanted to lose weight. And through the yoga practice, because I was doing it very consistently, very regularly for a few years, as I was going for auditions and this kind of thing, it put me in touch with a sense of self that I had never experienced before. So I guess before I was always, because of the dysfunction in my family and just society in general, I always looked outside of myself for approval, including with acting. It became less about the acting and more about, am I pretty enough? Am I good enough? Will the casting director think that I'm thin enough? So it's like I lost my North Star. Lost my love of acting. It was just about proving that I was enough. And through yoga, I found this sense of enoughness that was completely independent from my looks and independent from my circumstances. I was like a bartender. I was making no money. And yet I had never been happier in my life. I'd never felt more grounded and more stable. And that was an awakening for me. That was really so special. And I remember that one day I was in an Ashtanga class in this little studio that was just a stone's throw from my apartment. And I had, as we do sometimes, those tears that run down your face in Shavasana. And I got out of Shavasana and I felt like 1,000,000 pounds had been lifted from my shoulders. And I walked right up to my teacher and I just said, I quit. I quit everything. I quit. I quit bartending, I quit acting, and I just want to open a yoga studio.
Thank you so much for sharing this such a raw story. Something that really had my jaw drop was this man that told your agent that you found that said, okay, I'll take you in, but then told you matter of factly that you weren't leading lady material. Before this moment, did you ever consider that you weren't leading lady material because of your body? Did that ever come in, or was that the moment that kind of all of this started to shift and take shape for you?
No, I already knew that. I already knew, and I was so mad about the fact that I had broad shoulders and a broad rib cage and big arms like a swimmer's build. And I remember trying to camouflage my body going in to see my agent or going into auditions to try and look slimmer. I already knew that I wasn't the standard. And he reinforced that to me. And so when he told me that, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't shocked, sadly.
So it was almost a validation of, oh, everything that I believe is true.
Yes.
Okay. My heart is like dropping into my stomach. I can picture the 20-year-old and the inner child that is just, oh, yeah, I'm not good enough. And how many women feel that every day because of what we see outside and what is, I think the heroin chic era is back in 2026. And I'm like, oh my God, to all these young kids that are growing up in this era again. In terms of how it shaped your daily interactions, how you showed up in your auditions, how did it move through your body in the daily?
It really tripped me up. I think at my core, I was a really good actress, but I would get so self-conscious that I would forget my lines, that I was just so focused. I remember I was in this play and I couldn't be myself as much as the character would allow. And I was so focused because it was a leading lady role on stage. I was so focused on being the right weight for that role and looking the part that I didn't put as much effort, let's say, on learning my lines, on honing my acting skills. And I didn't do a very good job. It wasn't a very good play because I didn't bring myself to the role.
It really breaks my heart. I feel this so deeply in my body. And so many years, I felt the same way. So many years, I felt I wasn't good enough. Even being in the yoga world, being a yoga teacher, having students look at me and saying, oh, I'm not the yoga teacher body type. So I would love to hear your experience of when you opened up Happy Tree. I know you had this experience in your last Ashtanga class of I quit everything, but did it really quit you? Were you able to really put it to rest and say, okay, I'm going to show up as a teacher and none of this inner talk, inner dialogue is going to come with me?
Oh yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. I really, because I had such a big awakening, I thought that's it for me. I now love myself. I now am enough and I accept myself. And when I opened the studio, I had a lot of confidence. And then slowly the body image stuff started to come back up. And I realize now that the yoga industry is built on the same culture, the same standards as the film industry or the beauty and wellness industry, or it's part of the wellness industry. And so thinness and skinniness at that time, especially, and it's like you're saying, making a comeback, was selling yoga. So it was like a double-edged sword, because on the one hand, yoga helped me accept my body. Yoga gave me the tools for increasing my awareness, my consciousness, accepting myself, regulating my nervous system, my emotions. And on the other hand, the yoga industry in the West made me feel like I was fat, like I wasn't enough, like you described, like I wasn't your typical yoga teacher, no matter how hard I tried. And some people, that's why they came to me and they loved me because I wasn't a little skinny mini. But they'd say, yeah, I love you because you don't look like the other yoga teachers. And I would take that as a bit of an insult.
Yeah, it's so interesting how people feel that they have the allowance to say whatever they want about your body to you out loud. And it's
I
normal.
would brace myself, right? Because especially at a certain point, 5 years into the business, I had a burnout. I was dealing with anxiety. And so I was doing a lot of emotional eating and I put on weight. And, people, it's like people, there was like a cognitive dissonance that a yoga teacher couldn't be gaining weight. So she must be pregnant. So then I started getting all kinds of people going, are you expecting? Oh, when are you due? I was mortified.
Like my job is that is it's I can't even imagine like the allowance that people give themselves. I remember when I had my studio and I was going through menopause and I was putting on a lot of weight. I was 33 and of course I wasn't expecting this, but I was just putting on weight. And when I lost weight, what people were saying to me was just, hey, like how big was I before that you think that I lost a full body within me? So
Yeah.
that's wild. I'm so sorry
Yeah.
that that's, what was happening. And so you mentioned your nervous system, and I'd love to ask, how do you feel the skinny culture shapes your nervous system when you're speaking, when you're auditioning, when you're teaching in front of a classroom?
It definitely makes me self-conscious. And that self-consciousness and trying to make myself small causes a dysregulation. So yeah, I mean, it is dysregulating to always be worried about what other people are thinking about you and whether they're judging you. So it brings you really into the critic and the judge in your own mind. Because even if the person isn't judging me, I'm projecting that they are. And so I'm trying to make myself small. I'm bracing myself for, I'm like, hi, I'm like wearing the baggy t-shirt as I'm teaching and being like, please don't ask me if I'm pregnant. And so it does, yeah, I think create tension in the physical body.
And you're teaching about breaths, I'm assuming, and you're holding your own breath because of the expectation of what you should look like.
In a sense, yes. I didn't realize it until now, but if I look back, I was like, I did have patterns where if I had a big teaching day, I probably wouldn't eat very much that day until later at night when I felt I could be home and sometimes binge. So again, I wouldn't call it an eating disorder, but it was more like disordered eating because I didn't want to risk having a tummy or looking bloated in front of my class.
Okay. And so you said it wasn't an eating disorder, but a disordered eating. Can you explain a little bit about the difference between the two?
Yeah, with an eating disorder, it's an addiction. So it falls into the category of an addiction. So whether you're addicted to restricting or binging or purging, all these things, it's like something that is almost like beyond your control. For me, disordered eating is more like today, I have a big teaching day. I'm not going to eat too much because I don't want to feel self-conscious. And then I like scarf down pizza at night. And so it's still playing with my food, but it's not an everyday thing.
Okay. So it's something that lives in your thoughts, but not something that controls your life, I would say. Is that
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just so normal at the time that I didn't even think there was anything disordered about it at all. I just thought it was what everybody did. At the time, like we'd get together, we'd do cleanses, we'd do detoxes or fasting. And that was just under the guise of health.
Mm.
Trust me, I was always hoping I would lose a few pounds in the process, but it was just normal. It was just part of the culture.
Thanks for bringing up that point. I think the culture, so the people that you were hanging around with, the yoga teachers, your family, friends, was this what was happening in the women around you? Was this everyone was just talking about their weight, what they look like? It was just always part of the conversation?
It was definitely. And I remember even I'd started with my spiritual mentor, Lisa, in 2013, I think. And even at that time, so my sister was really encouraging me, like, you have to start a YouTube channel. And let me tell you, I could have had a really, I could have given it Yoga with Adrienne a run for her money, I think. But again, I was too self-conscious. And I remember Lisa saying to me, Mel, like, how selfish of you not to put your gifts out there because you think you need to lose an extra 10 pounds. And frankly, it didn't matter how thin I was. I always felt that I was too fat to be on camera. Also, my sister had an eating disorder, right? And she kept it hidden, and she hid it a lot through, because she was a personal trainer. She hid behind the wellness culture and the health culture of thinness. And I, at certain points, tried to ask her, I was like, do you have an eating disorder? I'd asked her point blank, and she said no. But the fact that she wouldn't eat carbs, only ate hard-boiled eggs, this kind of thing could be like, okay, she just really cares about her health and she just is trying to build up her protein. And I always admired the people who had the, I guess, the discipline to not eat carbs. I felt like I didn't have that. So for me, I was like, I felt like a moral failure because I couldn't restrict, or it never worked for me, not realizing that my sister had a full-blown eating disorder.
It's so interesting that your sister, who had an eating disorder, would cheerlead you on to say to you, how dare you not give your gifts to the world? Meanwhile, she was suffering with her own disease. And it's interesting, that's also what's happening in so many circles of women, that we hide behind the guise of wellness or health, and we cheerlead our best friends, our sisters, because we see such beautiful women in front of us, but we hold such, I don't know, I wouldn't say toxic relationship because that's not really what it is. I don't know, we just feel like we don't think that we're beautiful enough, or this negative self-talk is always towards us. And it's so saddening and it's so disheartening. And I wish that we didn't have to live in this culture where we're the worst critique of our own self and we see such beauty in others. I think that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, we're always harder on ourselves. It's so internalized. I couldn't tell you when I first associated thinness with my own value. It was just the water I drank and the air I breathed.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know where it starts from, but we know there's a huge systemic problem that's happening that is making women crazy and now men crazy about how they feel and how they look to the external world. And I think it definitely needs to come to a point where we care more about our internal than our external, because that's what everyone looks at anyways. Beauty fades, but who you are on the inside is what takes you to many evolutions of life. And so let's shift the conversation, because this is so impactful. When I saw this whole fuck skinny culture come to be, and I was like, who is this woman? I need to talk to her because this is incredible. So I would just love to know, how did the fuck skinny culture come to be?
Oh, such a good question. Let me just finish my story a little bit first for context. So I had Happy Treat for 10 years, the actual physical studio. And then I closed the studio. A year later, I got pregnant. I had my baby 3 weeks before the pandemic lockdown. And in that time, we also had an intervention with my sister about her eating disorder. And so at the time, it was actually the same weekend that I gave birth. My dad was in town, both for the birth of my daughter and also to help my sister sign up for the Douglas. So she was going to an outpatient program there for her eating disorder. And then 3 weeks later, we were locked down. And so she had to do her whole program from home. It helped a little bit. She did get better, but in the second year of the lockdown in 2021, it got worse. Her health deteriorated greatly. She also had agoraphobia, which is where you're afraid to leave the house. And she'd always had that. But with COVID, it was like you had to stay home. So her eating disorder got worse. And keep in mind that she'd had this eating disorder since she was 12. So for 24 years, because sadly, at 36 years old in the summer of 2021, she died of her eating disorder. And it's documented by the coroner and everything. It was the eating disorder. It wasn't a suicide. It was just organ failure. So that sent me spiraling into really a 2-year depression. Plus I had my small child. So my business was just basically on hold. It was dormant, let's say. And then I did a ton of therapy, grief counseling, coaching, Ayurveda, all kinds of stuff and yoga and mindfulness, of course, to help me back out of that. And so then I became ready again to start my teacher training back up, to put myself out there. And I was doing actually really well almost a year ago now, last March or a year ago. And I met with my business partner, who's also an amazing, incredible mentor who's always believed in me. And he just looks at me and he goes, Mel, past is prologue. You have so much wisdom and so much experience, life experience in yoga. He's like, why not have fun now? Like, just keep doing what you're doing. But he always said to me, you have a theatrical nature. You're great in front of the camera. Put yourself out there. And now we know why I wasn't, right? So then he was like, there's nothing stopping you. And he was still really believing me. And so I came out of that meeting and my takeaway was, shit, he's right. I'm out of excuses, but I'm still scared to be in front of the camera. I'm still too self-conscious. So then I had mentioned my coach, Lisa Lajwa. I started a 3-month coaching program with her because I was like, I need to get through this block. And there were a lot of blocks. First, we dealt with childhood stuff, and then we moved on to the body image stuff. And I remember it was one session and it was just so powerful because she goes to me, Mel, did you even ask your body if it wants to be skinny? You're not built for skinny. Your body doesn't even want to be skinny. Here you are torturing yourself into trying to be a size that you're not even meant to be. And she's like, you should know this from like your yoga background and Ayurveda, which is like the Indian life science, where there's different constitutions, which we call doshas. And one of the constitutions, Kapha, has a slower metabolism, tends to gain weight more easily. And that's totally me. That's my dosha. And so she gave me an ultimatum. You need to decide, are you going to chase skinny or are you going to choose your soul? Because right now you're not doing your soul's work because all your energy and your time is going into beating yourself up for being a size that you're not even meant to be.
I love that.
That was such a wake-up call. It was so powerful. I can't even tell you because it was the first time in my life that I uncoupled success with thinness. First time ever. It didn't even occur to me. I thought she was going to help me lose weight. I thought she was going to be like, Mel, this is why you're not losing weight. Oh, that's the breakthrough. No, the breakthrough was, fuck that. You don't even need to lose weight. Yeah. I was like, what? I don't need to lose weight. I just like my whole life, I felt like I needed to lose weight.
I love that. I love that so much because so many women, I feel, and I can speak for myself, feel betrayed by their body because we're not meant to be this size, but this is the size that we see as the example of what a woman's beauty should be. And so we hate ourselves, we hurt ourselves, we control our eating, we have disordered eating. And to hear a woman say, hey, listen, have you even asked your body if it wants to be this way is such a powerful moment of turnaround. And I love that. I'm like, yeah, thank you for asking the question.
She literally said to me, Mel, fuck skinny.
Yeah.
And that's where it came from. That's where the whole thing came from, right? Look, I got boobs, girl. So she goes, Mel, fuck skinny. And so she sent me off and you need to go contemplate, you need to go reflect and decide, what are you going to do? And I'd already decided in that moment. But then as I was sitting with my coffee in the backyard, I was like, the idea for this post came to me, and it just came as a pure download. And it was like, I'm entering my fuck skinny era. And I already had done a little photo shoot when I was in Mexico. So I had pictures, and I put together this post of entering my fuck skinny era and came clean about how I'd had body image issues and thought to be an influencer, I needed to lose weight and was basically miserable. And then asked my body, why is it so hard for you to be skinny? To which she answered, because I don't want to be. I'm a kapha, mama, bhakti, earth, like abundant person. I'm an artist. I started to reframe it as this is actually a beautiful thing. And it had such a response. So many women, I say women in particular, a few men reached out to me too, but this is really something that affects women disproportionately, reached out and they were like, it's like you're talking about me. And so I continued with it.
Yeah.
And I continued the coaching. And one thing,
because I feel it so deeply. And I feel it resonates with so many women. And this is such a validating moment for so many women. I hope it to be, because when you actually ask your body what it wants, or when you finally come to this healthy relationship with your body and say, it's not going to hold me back, it's actually going to be my vehicle to be the person that I need to be in this world and to help the people that I'm meant to help in this world, then it becomes such a powerful tool, and it doesn't become this thing that you have to bring along with you. And I fuck skinny.
totally.
Just gonna write my tears.
I found my voice again. I stopped hesitating. And also I have Lisa there, and I still have her. This was supposed to be 3 months of coaching, turned into 6, turned into 9. And you can bet your ass I'm continuing for a year, because she was holding me accountable too. She's going, Mel, don't you dare give up on this right now. Keep going with it. Keep putting yourself out there. And one thing that I think is very important for people to know is, though, when that happened, I had so much content around just feeling so free, and I did feel so free. And then it came back. It's an ongoing fight. It's an ongoing challenge, because it's still the water that we swim in. Skinny culture is everywhere. And it's also a whole lifetime of conditioning. So it's something that I have to continue to bring awareness to. And in a way, the Fuck Skinny movement helps keep me on track in accepting myself and doing things for the right reason. When I say like all the things that I did before, yoga and gym and eating well, but at the same time, Lisa was like, okay, now be fair with yourself. You can't be eating healthy, quote unquote, 100% of the time. You're a mom in perimenopause, for God's sake. She's, hey, come up with something that you feel is fair. And I remember the next session, I was like, okay, I can do a lighter dinner with no dessert. I'm fine, but I can't give up my 4 o'clock chocolate or like the coffee shop dates with my daughter. And we have a pizza night once a week, and I want to be able to eat my pizza. And so the difference is I'm empowered while I do it. I'm doing it by choice. I don't beat myself up after. At least I try.
Yeah, I love hearing that. My next question was like how your relationship with food has changed. So thanks for already saying it. But I will ask, I was like, how has your relationship to your image changed? Like your day-to-day life, in your teaching, in just how you present yourself? Like, how has that changed?
Oh my God, it's just so much more honest. Like before, there's so many things that I wouldn't post or I wouldn't do because I was like, oh no, people are going to find out that I'm like not thin. Like people know what I look like. But in my head, I was like, oh no, like this angle's not good. And now I'm much more likely to go, hey, what I'm saying is really good here. So it doesn't matter that I've got a little bulge somewhere. And so I've become a lot more authentic and grounded in my classes, I would say, because also there's not this noise between me and other people. Like I was having trouble connecting with other people because I was always like, again, going back to earlier in the conversation, bracing myself. Do they think I'm fat? Are they going to comment on my body? And so without that, I can listen to them a lot better. I can be present for them in a new way. So it's better. It's been good for my relationships as well.
I love that. And The relationship with your mirror, can I ask? How has that changed?
Okay. When it all started, the whole fucking skinny movement, it was amazing. All of a sudden, I started to see my body differently, and I started to see the curves as an asset. And I started to notice, no, I actually do have this little waist, and not little, but a waist.
Mhm.
And so changed the way that I was dressing. I was always wearing black. Always black baggy t-shirts was my uniform. It was my teaching uniform, and day to day, like even if I was getting dressed up, it was still going to be black because I needed to camouflage my body, particularly my midsection. So I started being attracted to buying colorful clothes, fun clothes. And yeah, and then I made it a point. I was like, I'm going to only wear color for a while. Now I'm like, okay, I'll put black back in here and there. But it did change. Now, then I put on a bit of weight over the fall. There was a big change in schedule with my daughter going to school, to kindergarten, and just life got really busy. So a lot of the things I was doing before, I wasn't doing as much, that for my health, that also happened to keep my weight a certain size. So I would say that then I started to feel a bit uncomfortable in my clothes again, and it started like creeping back up. So that's what I'm talking about, is that this is why I want to create a Fuck Skinny community, because we need support. I want to have a WhatsApp group. I'll mention that I have a wait list for the Fuck Skinny community where you can just put your name. And I'm putting together right now a course, a program where we can be there to encourage each other. It's almost when you have an addiction and you have your sponsor, or you go to 12-step program, I feel like to stay grounded in body acceptance, you do need support.
Yeah, I feel like with anything, you name what you're feeling, and if you have a witness to hear you naming that emotion or that feeling or what you're going through, just helps anchor and hold you accountable to the actual moving through of it. And I think that's beautiful. And it leads to my next question. It's like, what does progress look like for you? Like how can you practice it every day in your life as you're creating this healing pathway for yourself?
Yeah. So actually, if I really look at it, when I start to criticize my body again, is in direct correlation with when I am either falling out of the habits, the good habits that really support me in my physical and mental health. And it's also when I'm getting dysregulated in my nervous system. Because I could have one day where I'm dysregulated, I'm tired, I'm overwhelmed, and I don't like what I see in the mirror. The next day, I've slept, I've done my practices, and all of a sudden I feel beautiful. So for me, it's always checking in. And that was like another thing that Lisa taught me. She's when you're that you spiral out when you're dysregulated. So the top number one priority is self-care.
Mm.
And that doesn't have to be like all kinds of spa dates and whatever. I still have responsibilities, and I have a business to run and a child to raise and a home to run. But it is, oh, wow, I noticed my heart's beating really fast and I'm getting frustrated. Let me put a hand on my heart, a hand on my belly, and just go take a breath and say, what do you need? What do you need right now? And to check in constantly with what my needs are. Because I think part of the unmarrying, as much like yoga was the first thing that brought me into my body with interoceptive awareness, that helped me to be embodied.
Care is so important. I think a deep breath. I've spoken to doctors, naturopaths, psychiatrists, the gamut, and they all come back to the breath. They all come back to nervous system care. And I think that as a yoga teacher, this is like our specialty. And if we can take that moment, and it's sometimes as easy as it is to breathe, it's not easy to catch yourself and take that deep breath. So to have that awareness is so beautiful, and to have that holding for yourself is immeasurable in creating that safety. So that's so incredible that you do that and you have that awareness to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I also have a morning routine where I have it stacked for a very long time now. I always sit for a minimum of 10 minutes to check in with my body every morning and to connect with my soul. So I'll do a rain meditation, recognize, accept, investigate, nurture, to see what my needs are for that day or in that moment. And then with my soul, I'll say, show me the way. What will you have me do? And so that I get guidance that way too. And so I've stacked onto that, doing a bit of physical movement practice And then I got weights for my birthday, which was at the beginning of January. So then I do 3 sets of 2 exercises. So just not, maybe the whole thing takes half an hour or 40 minutes, but I've done a little bit of everything, and that really sets me up. I used to skip breakfast all the time because I just thought I need to fast. But then I realized that I was getting a lot of anxiety and it wasn't making me feel good. So then I started having like a high protein breakfast in the morning. So that's different too.
Incredible. I don't know how many women I see that are, oh, I'll skip breakfast. And like, no, that sets up your cortisol for the day. That just brings you straight into your nervous system. And I think so much of body image and taking care is to learn about the functional nutrition and to learn about the hormones, because this education, I really feel that women are at a disadvantage in this world, and not to blame society or anything, but more of it was set up for men. Men created the society that we live in, the culture that we live in, and they didn't put into the equation that women have menstrual cycles, women have extra hormones, women have a different metabolic reaction to certain ways of eating, and all the research is done on men. And so if women were set up properly, I think it would change so much of the systems that we have that set up women to think that we're failing. We're already failing from the start. And so we have this inner critique that's, oh, we can't keep up, we can't lose the weight. But if we were actually taught how to eat, how to function within our menstrual cycle, how to function within perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause, I think women would rule the world. We wouldn't be so external. We would be inside of ourselves, and we would be like anchored and set up and be happy to eat breakfast, do all the things that we need to do, and not set up like 4-day retreats to take us out of our world and deal with all of our issues, but to live in the world and be able to walk the paths. We're at a disadvantage right now. And I think part of it is the education. So I'm so grateful that you've created this Fuck Skinny culture so women can learn from a woman that's walking the path, learning all the things, creating these beautiful rituals for herself, that routine in the morning, the deep breaths, and has the training to just say, okay, I'm here to support you. Let's walk this path together. I think that's incredible. And so if you could redesign a studio or a creative space, and I think you're in the midst of doing this, what would women, or what would anyone, men, women, feel the moment they walk in?
I think I achieved it pretty well when I had a studio. Happy Tree, still people to this day. It's been closed for 7 years, and still I get almost daily people saying that place was so special. And I think it's because there's a switch in your nervous system when you walk in. We had a very open reception and lounge, and a homemade tea that we made with cinnamon sticks and cardamom pods and everything. And so you would have the smell of the tea and the warmth of the tea, and everybody greeting you with a smile. And the culture there was really a culture of joy and of community and chatting and stuff. It was annoying because sometimes we'd have to tell people to be quiet during class, because the people would stay for an hour after class. They'd show up early, and whoever was at reception knew everybody by name. I tried to remember everybody's names. And so it was like just the sense that you were welcome, that you mattered when you walked in, and that you belong. And that does create a shift in the nervous system. I'll give a story that's not quite related. I also wanted to give a space for people of color who were not represented in the yoga community. And I was offering BIPOC scholarships in my teacher trainings, Black, Indigenous, people of color. So my first teacher training cohort after COVID, I had 3 Black students. I had Black guest teachers and other people of color in my training. And one of the Black students, she just cried and cried for the first 2-3 weekends, these tears, because what she said later was like, I didn't realize I was holding my breath. She'd been doing yoga for 15 years, and she never really felt relaxed. But then when she saw other Black students in the circle, when she saw a Black teacher and me, who she trusted, it was like she had never been able to let go before, totally in a yoga space. So representation matters as well.
And I think that touches on such a beautiful point of, we have no idea what people are walking into a room with. We don't know their stories. Even the teachers that are teaching us, you were saying you wear baggy t-shirts, you were holding your breath. And I think it's important to just know that everyone has their own story and everyone's going through their own thing. And so to hold a space where
everyone could share that and everyone has the right or the opportunity to express themselves. And nothing is off limits for someone to really feel and to share. And I think you provide such a beautiful space for that. It seems like you provide such a beautiful space for that.
Yeah, I do my best to hold space in the way where everybody feels seen, heard, understood. And I'm a big fan of circles. So it's not me putting myself on a pedestal above other people saying, I have it figured out and you don't. No, we're all on this path together. I might be a few steps ahead only because I've had a lot of help also, but I'm confident in what I have learned humbly and can share that with people. But I also learn every single teacher training is my students teach me and reflect back to me things that I'm still in need of working on. And so it's this huge growth opportunity for me as well, which is both confronting and incredible.
Yeah. It's so interesting because everyone does have their own story. And when someone comes up with this culture of fuck skinny, it definitely holds a mirror up to a lot of people. And some people aren't willing to face that mirror yet. Have you had pushback since creating this fuck skinny culture?
Yeah, the one thing that I'm trying to do is really to say that I'm pushing back against skinny culture and not skinny people. Very important, big difference, right? Because as I know from my sister who had anorexia, just because you're skinny doesn't mean you're exempt. You might even be suffering more from skinny culture. So that's, I think, the first thing. And yeah, I got trolled. I was on CTV actually as a yoga instructor pushing back against skinny culture. And after that, I got a 1-star review and a person that wrote, fat isn't healthy. And I was like, great, this is such a good opportunity to talk about that discrepancy or that tie-in of like automatically you're healthy if you're thin. And if you're not thin, then you're unhealthy. And so in the interview, I actually say that's not true. And that's because somebody could be skinny and have an eating disorder, be sick. They're genetically predisposed to being skinny, whether or not they eat well or exercise. And as I discussed before, like it took me a while to come to terms with my own body that like, I'm not built to be thin. I'm more of an athletic build. I have a slower metabolism. I have to work a little harder to move by my body and bring in the fire because my tendency is towards earth, right? And just wanting to read or watch TV. So a lot of people scroll, right? So it does take a little extra motivation for me. But generally speaking, I've done blood tests recently and all kinds of stuff, and everything came out great. Like I am in good health right now. So I guess I can be a poster child for you don't have to be thin. And I'm not talking about obesity either. That comes with its own set of health concerns. When you're just mid-size, we're somewhere in the middle. There's nothing wrong with you.
All shapes, sizes, and everything is incredible because that's how we're meant to be. That's how our body wanted to take shape. We're pre-stiffened from the moment that we're born, and our fascia just works around us and it creates this beautiful shape. And so we just are able to be in our body and use it in such incredible ways. Have you had, and let's go to the other side, have you had a lot of people just like, yes, finally, it was like, aside from me, that is now like one of your biggest fans.
You're so cute. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. I get oh my God. Like I have total chills right now. I get approached on the street. Like I was in Drummondville in a cafe getting a coffee, waiting for the train. I ran into a student that I hadn't seen in 10 years, but follows me on Instagram. And she was like, fuck skinny. I saw a retreat that I was teaching at, all Francophones. And this woman just walks up to me and she's fuck skinny. So yeah, like people are like definitely catching on with it. And the other day I posted something, a reel about the troll actually. And I had a voice note from a student who lives in Switzerland. And she was like, thank you for doing this. I'm encouraging you. I feel like your sister's watching. Keep going. And I get those messages in my DM a lot. Don't stop. Please don't stop speaking for us. Keep going.
Yeah.
Makes me want to cry.
You're representing so many women across the world. And especially you've touched so many women throughout your teacher trainings and throughout Happy Tree. So many women are just like, I can imagine, because I'm one of them, is yes, finally, like we have a voice, we have someone speaking out for us. And exactly like you said, it's not to say like skinny people, it's just fuck skinny culture. Like it's enough. It's enough with trying to make women fit into a box. Like why women have to fit into this one very specific body type that a lot of us aren't meant to. A lot of our bodies don't want to. And so as much as we try and hurt ourselves in the process, we can't even achieve that goal. And so it's so nice to have a voice saying, we're done. We don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
So
And just think of the power. Think of the brain power and the energy. Collectively, as women, we stopped putting all of our energy into torturing ourselves into being a size that our body doesn't want to be. It for me, it just freed up so much mental space and so much energy towards my real purpose. And I think it's a way of repressing women, because if we're busy worried about our weight, we're not out there advocating and being out there changing the world, because we're too worried about changing our physical appearance.
yeah, we're wasting so much time. I think it's also, we don't even have the energy because we're starving ourselves. Food gives us energy, it gives us that brain power. I'm definitely on the menstrual cycle lens, and I think about the luteal phase, the phase after ovulation, where we need more food, we need more calories. We're not supposed to work on this 1,200 calorie diet. Our metabolism changes because we, as biology, physiology, we're in the implantation phase. So even if you're not going to be a mother, you're not expecting, that's what the body is actually doing. It's slowing down so that we can implant. And so if we don't have enough calories, our body's going into deeper starvation mode, then we just gain more weight. And so it's like this vicious cycle that we're creating inside of ourselves. And it's like, why? For what? Just to fit into a size 2? Fuck that. Fuck it. Fuck that. And so you have a daughter. You mentioned you had a daughter. And as a mother, seeing your daughter grow up, what are the lessons? What do you want her to learn from what you're creating right now in this world?
My biggest wish for my daughter is that she continues to be herself, that she continues to be authentic. Because I think children, according to Gabor Mate anyway, have two basic needs. They have a need for attachment and belonging and safety, and a need for authenticity and expression. And if they don't have an environment in which they're free to be themselves, like a punishing environment, then they will make themselves small to please, to stay safe, and to stay attached. So I look at my daughter and she's just so expressive in every way. She reminds me of me. She's an artist. She's dancing. She makes us laugh. She's loud. She's funny. And my hope for her is that she sees me having fun with her, and that by being relaxed in my own body, I'm giving her the environment, the container, and the atmosphere in which to flourish, in which to continue to be herself. Because I think if she has that strong foundation, also through education, so me talking about what I'm going through, talking about like educating, if we see something on TV and she makes a comment, or I can say, we do it a lot with storybooks. What was it? Oh yeah, because it was like this prince that was choosing the princesses. And I'm like, is it really okay that it's only the prince's decision to get married? And she's, no, mommy, the girl gets to decide too. I'm like, yeah. Right. So so I think those are the two pieces. It's education, and just by working on myself and creating an environment where she can be herself.
I love that. I think that's so beautiful. And yeah, and again, I'm going to say it again. I think what you're creating is so beautiful for men and for women and men. I think because now society is really carving out a body type for men. And I think a lot of men are diving into the same problem. And I think that it's just, we need more of it. We need more of you doing this in life. So I'm so grateful. I'm so happy that I had a chance to speak with you today and just get to know a little bit more about your story and about what's driving you and about how you want to raise your community as well as your daughter. I think that's so beautiful. And I think more and more people should get to know you and work with you. So if someone would want to work with you, if they want to find you, how would they go about that?
Yeah. So my company, though I don't have a studio anymore, my company is still active. I have a website, so you can check out what I'm doing at happytreeyoga.com. And that's where you'll see the wait list for the Fuck Skinny community, a community devoted to breaking up with skinny culture. And I also give teacher trainings and teach out of Mon Couple Studio at the corner of Giroir and Monklin and NDG in Montreal. And people can also find me through Instagram. My handle is at melanie.richards.yoga and on Facebook as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciated this conversation. I think
Bye.
I think no matter where you are in your journey, and even if you're so far along, there are times where you fall back. And so to have a community, to have a support, to have people just cheerleading you on to keep going in this way and to not give your energy to just the external, I think is absolutely beautiful. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It really is. I wish for other women to tap into that confidence and that power, particularly around the menopausal years, where in our culture where women are thrown away at that age, or goes from, what is it, maiden to mother to crone. And it's, no, girl, there's queen in there. No, be a crone. I'm still a mother. I had my kid. But I think that, again, if we shift the way that we see ourselves, and instead of feeling pitted against each other, we come together in community. I really want to start this movement so that women can take power right now and enter their queendom.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so amazing.
I just want to thank you so much, Natalie, for having me on here. This meant so much to me to be able to share my story and to have your encouragement and your support. I really feel it. And I love what you're doing with your podcast and everything else around the cycle. It's so important. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Oh,
I wish I could hug you.
yeah, I know I like to end my conversations with hugs, but
If something in this episode landed for you, I'd love to hear what it was. You can leave a note or share it with someone you feel it might support. And if there's a question or a curiosity you want me to explore next, I'm always listening. Thank you so much for being with me. I'll meet you in the next episode.